Hey folks, it's Fernando doing another video here for the More Survivalists. Today I did an interview for the BBC radio show called Business Daily, I think it's called. Whenever it is that I know that it's going to be aired, I'm going to be leaving a link in my website, The More Survivalists, for you guys to check it out. But one of the things that I got asked was, what would be my advice for people in Greece right now? And as it sometimes happens with these radio shows, there wasn't a lot of time, so I get a very short, not very happy answer. And I thought, but the question stayed with me, and I thought, what would be my advice for folks in Greece? And that's what this video is going to be about. My advice for you guys in Greece, maybe worried right now with what's going on. I think the situation is not really as bad as it's being shown in mainstream media. I think there's lots of fear mongering, especially there's a very clear attempt so as to try to scare people, especially people in Greece, so as to agree with things that are maybe not in their best interest. I think that all things being said is the situation right now in Greece is maybe one of the best in the last few years. Actually, you are in a position right now where your government is, at least in theory, based on what's being said, is willing to renegotiate your position with the rest of the European Union, especially the European banks, and if not, they are not afraid of leaving the euro entirely. That's not a bad place to be right now. I think that the ones that are risking the most are actually Germany with Greece leaving. That would mean that the euro takes a pretty big hit, and no one wants that, specifically not the countries such as Germany. So most likely, and this is maybe stuff that I'm going to be addressing in another video, but most likely I think that the terms will be renegotiated in a much better way, and finally stop with all this austerity measures that are just bleeding the people in Greece in humane ways. That's that kind of austerity is never the solution so as to get out of anything. It's just a country sinking into poverty. And one of the things that I've learned from Argentina is that in spite of all the corruption, all the problems over there, they did not overcome the economic crisis with austerity. Actually, they did that by to a great degree, renegotiating the debts and the terms in which it was going to be paid, and not being willing to make sacrifices as the International Monetary Fund was actually looking for. So, what is that I would do in this position? These are going to be a few days, maybe a few weeks of instability, and even though I don't think it's going to be as bad as, no matter what happens, I don't think it's going to be. Let's make this clear. I don't think that Greece is going to be leaving the euro. Maybe it could happen, but I don't think it's nearly as likely, because the people that are most likely to suffer it are especially Germany. So it's not in their best interest. And there's other things, but again, things that are better addressed in another video. Now, let's suppose, let's talk for a second here about a possible worst case scenario. Let's say that Greece does leave the European Union and they do leave the euro behind. Immediately what happens in this case, it's not very different from Argentina. What happens is that the accounts, people's accounts in euros, are converted to whatever new currency you're using. The drachma, drachar, I don't know how it's the Greece currency used to be called. Whatever happens there is you're going to be you're having your bank accounts converted from euros to a new currency, which is of course losing value by the hour. So you're much better off having your money out of the bank and having it in cash. Maybe even better, having your money in a account out of the country entirely. In Europe, it's pretty easy to open a bank account somewhere else in another country, open a bank account in some other country, and get some of your money out of it, if not most of it these days, given the possible events that could play in the following days. So first of all, first piece of advice would be that have a good amount of your money out of the bank, cash or out of the country entirely until you see things settling some. Currency to have, euro, maybe not so much as dollars. Where if in that case, in the case of a worst case scenario where Greece leaves the European Union, the euro is going to be taking a hit as well. So it makes more sense, at least the way I see it, to go for US dollars or even gold, which is always a good protection for this kind of thing. The second thing that I would be looking into is buying the supplies that you're going to be needing no matter what. And here I'm talking specifically about food, medicines that you may be needing, specifically food. Food, you're going to be eating it no matter what, and it's much better to have it ahead of time, buying a few months extra worth of food in case this worst case scenario plays out. Here you're looking at inflation, you're looking at maybe civil unrest on the streets, so you maybe don't want to be going out and risking facing the possible violence out there on the streets. So a good amount of supplies at home is actually a very good idea. That's one of the things that I definitely do myself. I'd also look into getting a firearm if you don't have one already. You have the possibility of owning firearms in Greece, at least a handgun. You have shotguns as well, or at least have a firearm for self-defense. Most likely nothing happens, but as always, if something does happen, if there is more of a widespread violence on the street and you have to defend yourself, that's not the moment just to go to a gun store buying a firearm. You have to buy it ahead of time. All right, don't wait until such a thing happens. Besides the necessary supplies, besides the tools for defending yourself, finally, my last piece of advice would be looking into the possibility of a plan B in case things end up working out for the worst. In that case, you may end up having to maybe leave the country entirely. A lot of people have left Greece already because of its high unemployment, because of the problems over there, because of the inflation in many of the prices. Power has the cost of power has gone up a lot. So there's lots of people that have already left. Now, with an event like this, it may force you to leave. And you're much better off if you do this with a plan ahead of time. What I'm talking here specifically is have an idea of where it is that you will be going if things don't work out in Greece. If things don't work out in Greece and you may have to go somewhere else, some other country, at least have an idea of where you would be going. What are some of your possibilities based on friends, family that you may have somewhere else? At least have that conversation of can I count on you if something happens? Do I have a place? Do I have a couch to crash over your place if things get very ugly over here? That's the kind of thing that I definitely try to sort out right now. So, these are all the things that I've addressed, of course, much better in my book, The Modern Survival Manual, Surviving the Economic Collapse, which is this one, specifically for this kind of thing, for when the economy goes south and you have to deal with it on a daily basis. The link is going to be, as always, there below for the book in Amazon. And that's going to be it, guys. I'm going to be doing other videos about this because I think it's very interesting and it's happening right now. I don't think things are nearly as bad as it's being portrayed by mainstream media. I think it's actually the opposite. I think it's a good moment for people in Greece because their options, either renegotiating or either leaving and having their own currency so as to have more independence, that could have would be harder at first, but eventually would be a solution as well. So just trying to plan a little bit for the worst case type of situations, but not nearly as bad as it's being shown in the media. Guys, take care, subscribe, share, have a great day. See you in our next video.